In the gloomy forest, Goth voiced his lingering doubts, wondering whether the plan would truly work. He questioned Vlad about the necessity of placing the bait on top of a rock, stating that while he understood scattering it along the road, he could not comprehend the reason for putting it on a stone. Vlad calmly explained that when he had been digging earlier, he could still feel the solid resistance of hard rock beneath the soil. Based on that, he reasoned that whatever creature they were dealing with likely could not break through the stone to the surface. Goth, still uneasy, raised the possibility that the creature might indeed be capable of breaking through rock, and had simply chosen to tunnel through soil for some unknown reason. Before he could finish voicing his concern, Vlad signaled for him to be silent, indicating that the creature had arrived. Strange movement soon appeared ahead. The creature proceeded to consume each piece of bait that Vlad had laid out. Goth hid behind a bush and observed. Eventually, the creature reached the final pile of food placed at the top of the rock. Vlad narrowed his eyes as he watched, remarking internally that his assumption had been correct. The creature was unable to break through the rock. A clawed hand slowly emerged. Vlad drew his sword in caution as the creature reached out and grabbed the food. At that moment, Vlad realized that he could finally see it clearly. To everyone's astonishment, it turned out to be nothing more than a small, adorable mole. The group froze in disbelief. Goth exploded in outrage, accusing the elders of having completely lost their senses and angrily mocking the idea of an earth spirit, insisting that it was nothing more than an ordinary mole. Vlad, however, merely curled his lips slightly and corrected him, stating that it was not just any mole. It was a shining mole. With that, Vlad rushed forward. The mole caught mid-meal, froze in confusion, unable to process what was about to happen. It only panicked after being firmly grasped in Vlad's palm. Vlad examined it with satisfaction while the mole trembled in sheer terror. Suddenly, it emitted a powerful burst of light. At that exact moment, Goth ran over and asked if Vlad had managed to catch it. Vlad had been standing right in front of him only a second earlier. Yet in the next instant he vanished without a trace. Goth and Noir stared in shock. Goth panicked, shouting in confusion and despair, unable to comprehend where Vlad had gone and declaring that the situation was driving him insane. Noir gestured for him to turn around. When Goth did, he saw what Noir was pointing at, a deep, bottomless pit. Goth was stunned and muttered once again that the situation was driving him insane, wondering what madness awaited them next. Meanwhile, Vlad was sliding uncontrollably down to the very bottom. He had fallen through the ground into a vast, pitch-dark abyss. His descent ended when he landed on top of a tangled mass of tree roots. Dust slowly settled around him. Vlad let out a breath of relief, thinking that he had survived and that he had truly believed he would fall forever into a bottomless pit. He questioned where he had ended up, realizing that there was an underground passage beneath the earth. Turning his anger toward the mole, Vlad demanded to know where it had brought him and cursed the situation, blaming the creature for his predicament. Internally, he admitted that he had no idea what dangers might be lurking down there and resolved to remain on guard. Vlad activated his magic. The mole looked up at him with shimmering eyes as an immense aura of power radiated from his body. The mole let out a startled cry. Vlad reflected bitterly that nothing in this world was ever easy and concluded that climbing back up the way he had fallen was impossible. Closing his eyes, he focused his senses and detected a faint draft of air. He reasoned that somewhere along the passage there had to be a path that connected back to the outside. He then turned to the mole and threatened it, warning that if he failed to escape by the end of the day, the mole would become his breakfast the following morning. He decided that for now, the only option was to continue forward. As he walked, Vlad complained about the seemingly endless passage, remarking that no matter how far he walked, there was no sign of an end. Suddenly, everything plunged into complete darkness. Vlad grumbled, noting that it was getting dark and ordering the mole to provide light while he was still being polite. The mole immediately began to glow again, illuminating the passage. Vlad expressed his satisfaction, but warned that if the light went out again, punishment would follow, emphasizing that the creature was the very reason he was now wandering beneath the earth. The mole-like creature waved its arms erratically. Vlad could not understand what it was trying to convey, so he questioned what it was even saying and decided that they should leave the place first, noting that the draft was drawing closer and that there was definitely an exit ahead. Before he could finish that thought, he suddenly sensed light. Realizing this, Vlad burst into laughter, convinced that this proved they were heading in the right direction. However, he abruptly sensed something unusual and wondered what that presence had been. He noticed that the mole had curled in on itself, and Vlad silently concluded that it was frightened, likely terrified of the sound. He could also feel intense vibrations and sensed an overwhelming power being transmitted through them. Frowning, Vlad decided that they should climb up carefully for now, believing that he would understand everything once he checked it himself. Vlad leapt out of the tunnel and cautiously raised his head to look around. What he saw left him stunned. and he let out a quiet gasp. Before him stood a massive monster swinging an axe in a frenzy as it chopped down trees. Its body was enormous and imposing, with a ferocious face and rows of sharp teeth. Horrified, Vlad realized that this was not a monster that belonged to the northern regions. He then looked back at the mole, which was clutching its head in terror, and Vlad finally understood that this creature was what it had been afraid of. He further realized that the tree being destroyed must be the origin of the spirit. He reflected that he normally avoided matters that did not concern him, but this time he knew he had no choice but to intervene. Vlad instructed the mole to hide inside the tunnel and wait quietly. Stepping fully out into the open, he reminded himself that the secret to killing an enemy in a single strike lay in launching an unexpected attack. With his sword ready, he approached slowly, lowering his stance as his gaze sharpened. Seizing the moment when the monster was not paying attention, he rushed forward and struck. At that instant, the monster sensed his movement. Vlad advanced without hesitation and delivered a clean slash that severed its head. He briefly noted that it had been a perfect strike, but he froze moments later when dark energy poured from the corpse and the monster's body began to regenerate. Cursing under his breath, Vlad expressed his frustration at encountering these creatures yet again. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Goth was frantically searching for Vlad. He called out desperately, asking whether his captain could hear him and begging him to say something, anything at all. Peering into a deep pit, Goth cursed angrily and admitted to himself that he was losing his mind. Unsure of what to do, he debated whether he should climb down, but quickly rejected the idea, worrying that it could turn into a situation where he would need to pull Vlad up instead. He reasoned that borrowing a rope from the village would be the better option. While he was distracted by these thoughts, Noir caught a scent and began to move away. When Goth turned around and noticed this, he called out anxiously, demanding to know where Noir was going before deciding to follow him. The eerie atmosphere made Goth recall the elder's words about strange cries coming from the forest, sounds that belonged to neither humans nor beasts, and he wondered if this was what they had meant. As Noir ventured deeper into the woods, Goth cursed again, then stole himself and resolved to trust and follow Noir for the time being, reminding himself that it was the very spirit once revered by the barbarians. Even so, his voice trembled as he admitted that he truly did not want to proceed. Back at the battlefield, the monster launched a relentless assault on Vlad. He dodged its attacks while striking back, his blade passing straight through its body. Gritting his teeth, Vlad slashed it again and internally noted with satisfaction that his attack had worked, believing the creature could no longer use its legs. However, the monster regenerated once more, leaving Vlad shocked at what he was witnessing. The creature retaliated with a powerful kick that sent Vlad flying backwards. He forced himself to regain his balance and realized that the attack had been imbued with a sticky, malevolent aura identical to that of a foe he had encountered before. Though the monster's head was severed once again, its still intact body calmly picked it up and reattached it as if it were a cruel joke. Dark power spread throughout the forest, and Vlad concluded grimly that this monster also possessed immortality, meaning that half-hearted attacks would never be enough. Contemplating his next move, Vlad realized that he had no choice but to recall it. His thoughts returned to the moment when the voice had permitted him to enter that world, and to the sensation he had felt when his world and that other world had briefly touched. An extraordinary light radiated around Vlad as he advanced toward the monster, then suddenly lunged forward with lightning speed. He observed its movements, evading its attacks. His sword slashed across the creature's body as he dug his feet into the ground to steady himself, following up with a relentless chain of strikes. He stole his resolve, vowing inwardly that he would keep cutting the monster down until it finally died. Beneath the quiet, oppressive night sky, the battle showed no sign of ending. The monster was chopped into countless pieces, yet it still possessed the ability to regenerate and restore itself. It launched a counterattack, but Vlad narrowly dodged. Sweat dogged his face as dust and smoke filled the air. He panted heavily while the monster's eyes glowed as it fixed its gaze on him. Vlad felt his sanity being pushed to the brink. He reflected in frustration that he had already severed its arms and legs, sliced open its back, pierced its heart, burst its lungs, split its belly, torn out its intestines, and ripped those apart as well. Yet it still refused to die. He recalled the voice that had once spoken of cutting down a headless knight, and wondered bitterly whether his world was still too shallow. Realizing there was no time for a shelf stacker, he forced himself to focus solely on how to swing his sword. If the creature truly could not die, no matter how many times it was cut or stabbed, then he resolved to tear off all 4 of its limbs and rip it to pieces. The monster's face was smeared with blood. Vlad warned himself inwardly not to dare laugh when he suddenly noticed a strange light in the distance. Alarmed, he wondered what it was and feared that there might be another monster in the forest. He froze and stared in that direction, only to see Noir's silhouette gradually emerge. Shock washed over him as he realized it was Noir. Noir charged straight into the monster, catching it completely off guard, then quickly ran off crying out in excitement. Vlad rushed over, demanding to know how Noir had found this place, and anxiously checked Noir's body, hoping it had not been hurt anywhere. He then looked back at the monster. Despite its earlier resilience, it had clearly been injured by Noir's attack, which took Vlad by surprise. He realized that its wounds were not healing and began to suspect that the spiritual power Noir possessed was effective against it. Watching the monster struggle with its injuries, Vlad concluded that his guess had been correct. It had raised its guard. He climbed onto Noir, regaining his composure, and urged Noir to move. He reflected that no matter how precious or brilliant something was, if one lacked the strength to protect it, it could only be taken away. He believed that the world was filled with people who stood at the top, tears stolen from others, and that raising a sword in place of those who had no means to protect themselves was what the swordmaster's code defined as a knight. Vlad charged forward once more.